when you first encountered Tolkien and how Tolkien came into your life.
I know I've talked about this before, but I don't know that I've ever shared the story here. So let me do that. I discovered Tolkien when Fellowship of the Ring hit theaters in December of 2001, 2. I can't remember the exact year, but I saw it opening night knowing absolutely nothing about it. I had seen the trailers and was highly intrigued. I didn't know it was based on a book. I didn't know it was a trilogy. I knew nothing. I just knew it was fantasy and I wanted to see a movie. I bought a ticket, went by myself, which is how I like seeing movies, and had a fucking blast. Imagine my reaction though when we get to the end, and there's still a lot more to go to get to Mordor. I was confused. But confused as I was obsessed. I think I saw it 2 or 3 more times in theaters before it left. I also, of course, learned it was a book, I think based on the credits, or I forget how I learned it was based on a book. I did try to read the books. Try being that operative word. Because at the time, I was just out of high school, but at the time, I could not parse what the professor was trying to say. The language was too different than the quote-unquote modern English, and professor was from across the pond too, so there was a dialectical difference. And I was enjoying the movies well enough. I think by that time I'd seen Two Towers and Return of the King, I think. But I was like, fine, I'll just stick to the movies. No problem. I love them. They are already my whole personality. Fast forward 15 years. At that point, I'd only seen the theatrical edition and didn't know the extended edition existed. Because something a lot of people don't know or don't realize about me is that early 2000s me was not online at all. I didn't even own a computer. I didn't even own a smartphone for a lot of it. I didn't have a PlayStation. I had a TV, a VCR, or a DVD player, and that was it. I was extremely analog. So if y'all reference memes and stuff from the early 2000s, there's a real high chance I have never heard of it. But anyway, fast forward like 15 years, 2018, I finally sit down to watch the extended editions, and that's all I watch now. I refuse to watch the theatrical, especially Two Towers. I just made a video about why. You can go watch that. Oh, I had seen the first Hobbit movie in theaters the year or two before, whatever year it came out. But I hadn't read the book or anything at that point either. But back to the trilogy. I watched the extended edition and then actually read the books. And the books are quite different. In a good way. Don't get me wrong. That's the only time I've read the proper trilogy. I am planning to do a proper trilogy reread once I finish my reread of The Hobbit, which I've read The Hobbit like 4 or 5 times now, and read The Silmarillion twice if you're curious about that. But since then, I have cosplayed a Hobbit. I've gotten a Leaf of Lorien tattoo. There it is. There's my cat, because she's forever on my lap in the mornings now. And now these days, Tolkien is almost all I read. There's like 1 or 2 other authors that I'll venture outside of Tolkien for. But he is, if I'm reading something, it's probably by the professor. I've already mentioned I'm rereading The Hobbit, and then I plan to reread the main trilogy. I'm also going to be reading Unfinished Tales. It will be a reread for me, but I will be rereading that with a Tolkien-themed book club soon. I've read Fall of Numenor, Fall of Gondolin, which I absolutely love Fall of Gondolin. I've read Beren and Luthien. I feel like there's another Tolkien book that I've read. Oh, Leaf by Niggle, Tales of the Perilous Realm. That's it. A collection of his short stories. But I have a low-key goal to read every single Tolkien book ever published. I do plan to read a biography of the professor probably sometime this year. And I'd also really love to get into Nature of Middle-earth, which I do own and started, but all of the math when it came to elves' lives and their development and whatnot made my head swim, so I had to set it aside for a bit. But I'm hoping to get beyond that. But main trilogy first, because that's been overdue for a reread for a while. But that's my long, winding story of how I got into Tolkien, how I found Tolkien, and kind of the professor's role in my life these days. His books are everything to me. They are my whole personality. One thing I forgot to mention in my rambles is that part of the reason why I dove so hard into Tolkien in 2018 was because I was going through a really, really rough time. Probably the roughest time of my life. And I credit Tolkien heavily for helping me get through that. Because it was in allowing myself to fully embrace my obsession with Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings that I was able to deal with the horror that my life was at the time. And no, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not even going to explain what was going on. It's irrelevant. Just know I was incredibly depressed. I was having trouble finding joy in a lot of things. But my love of Tolkien and of Middle Earth remained steadfast. It had been there since I had initially seen Fellowship in theaters in 2001 or 2. And I had just kind of kept it at bay because trauma, honestly. People saying, oh, I shouldn't be so obsessed with things. But anyway, yeah, at that time I was like, fuck it, I don't care. We're going to do this. And so that's when I started collecting Tolkien books, the Tolkien related Funko Pops, anything. I just went hardcore into Tolkien because I honestly always wanted to. And now today, here we are, I'm making Tolkien TikToks. I regularly post little reactions and whatnot on my Blue Sky to whatever chapter I'm currently reading in The Hobbit or whatever Tolkien book I'm in. Sometimes I'll make like long form written things that I'll post on my blog regarding Tolkien and his works. Tolkien has become my life, and I'm really happy about it, to be honest. But to wrap this up, I'm in a much better place now. You don't have to worry about that. But I am very happy that I've finally dove into Tolkien and am becoming as knowledgeable as I am. I'm not an expert by any means. I barely consider myself a scholar. My brain is Swiss cheese. So if you ask me, hey, what happened in the Fall of Gondolin? What was Glorfindel's role? My brain is going to be like, he was there? Now, I know he was a little bit more important than that, but you get the point. This is why I so often reread things.